most of their weapons have jammed due to the electrical systems failing.
Yeah.
A lot of the crew is now wounded. The tail gunner, Eckenrode, is decapitated from flak.
Just a guy without a head back there.
Mm-hmm.
American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays gone down. Throw it all away.
What's up, Timeheads? Welcome back to the second part of the American Timelines episode featuring the sexy Artstar and everyone's favorite pilot and World War II buff, Hunter Brizzle. Let's listen as they continue their sit-down with Joe to cover the end of 1943. Enjoy, bitches.
This whole theme of sacrifice just kind of carries us right in the next day, which I think, Hunter, that's when yours is, right? The day after, Monday, December 20th, and you have a big sort of... kind of a sacrifice or a safe something that happened that created two friends among enemies.
Oh yeah. So it's called the Charlie Brown and Franz Stigler incident. And when I started studying this and kind of researching it, like I said, I watched or listened to a couple podcasts. One of them was with an author who reached out to Charlie Brown. No relation to the Peanuts gang.
Not the Peanuts gang, Charlie Brown.
Charles Lester Brown. When he reached out to him, and it's interesting, I know it's called American Timelines, but this is really a story about a German.
German, yes.
And that's what when Charles was reached out to by this writer, he said, "I'll talk to you, but you have to go talk to Franz first because this is really his story, and I'm just a character in it."
Okay.
So two guys, Charles Lester Brown, captain of the B-17 Flying Fortress, Ye Old Pub, which great name for a plane.
That was the name of the plane, Ye Old Pub.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this guy's German. This guy's a German guy?
No. Charles is the American.
Charles is the American.
Mm-hmm,
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So he enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1939, and then when America entered the war in 1942, he joined up with the U.S. Army Air Forces to fly planes.
Okay.
He was recruited into the 527th Bomb Squadron of the 379th Bomb Group. So these bomb groups were the way we bombed places during World War II. If you've ever watched any sort of an aerial fictitious or even kind of semi-fictitious movie about World War II and the airmen that fought in that, anytime you see these bomb groups, there's hundreds of these B-17 bombers, and they would literally just put them on a course, point them in a direction. The lead bomber would line up with the target, and then once the lead bomber said, "Okay, it's time," these hundreds of planes would drop each hundreds of bombs on an area, and they called it carpet bombing because it was literally like laying carpet. You would just flatten an entire area.
Oh my gosh.
So this guy, Charles Lester Brown, his first mission was on December 20th, 1943.
Okay.
And it was to bomb an aircraft production facility in Bremen, Germany.
Okay.
Franz Stigler, born in 1915. Now, Franz was only 16 when Hitler was elected to power. And that was one of the things a lot of these historians wanted to talk about was especially in the Air Force of Germany, the Luftwaffe. There was no love for Hitler. This was, most of these people came of age. He's already in power.
Right.
There was no they didn't vote for the guy. They just come of age, and it's like, oh, our country's at war. This is how we live.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to ask you, how many, like, if you were to look at the popular vote that got Hitler into power,
Oh gosh.
what would you think? How many people do you
Were
in
they even
percentage-wise?
actual like fair elections? Like were they?
Yeah, actually. So before the Nazis came into power, they had what they considered free and fair elections.
Really?
So if you were to give a percentage, how many? Because he ran for president originally,
Okay.
president of Germany. How many? Like, what percent do you think voted for Hitler?
I have zero idea. Art, you got a guess?
78.4%.
Really? You think that many people were behind him? So there's a lot of people drawing parallels to what we're going through in America right now, and so it's actually less than 40%.
That's way up.
So
Really?
Yeah. So the way German elections worked.
See, I think people just assume everybody loved them, but then you find out maybe they didn't really.
So the way German elections worked, and still a lot of countries today do this, they have, I'm blanking on how they describe it, but it's basically until someone wins a majority. So let's say you have 4 parties,
Yeah.
and each party wins 25% of the vote ish. Then they have another election, but they kick out the 4th place guy.
Okay.
So they do that until
they get somebody with a majority.
Until one person gets a majority.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's
So
I think that's how we should do it.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that think that.
I mean, the electoral shit's got to go. That doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
But so I think the first round he got 30% of the vote against a guy named Paul von Hindenburg. And the second round he got 36% of the
Okay,
vote.
you're going really in the
So he
weeds on
loses.
Hitler being elected.
Well, so like I think like so you have to to understand like how much like
where this guy's
people
coming
hated
from,
him.
you got to
Yeah,
understand.
you have to
like it.
understand that no one supported. Well, not
Yeah.
no one. Obviously, clearly
Obviously
people supported
did.
him.
Yeah.
But so second round, Hitler only gets 36%.
Yeah.
And so what I've put together over here is to pull something from Nerd School. I want to give you a breakdown of how Hitler got to power in 30 seconds.
Okay.
To steal a little bit of TBJ's thunder.
Okay, your 30 second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yep. Should we
Okay.
time it?
You got to do some sass.
If you want to.
You got to.
If you want to. Oh, yeah. Oh, I got this.
You gotta
I'm
bring
bringing the sass.
Old boy. You got to say
Yeah.
old boy at least once.
So Hitler runs for president, loses to Hindenburg. Then the next year, in 1932, the Reichstag elections happen. The Nazis win, and Hitler should be made chancellor because he's the leader of the Nazi party. It's kind of like the House of Representatives, where the person in charge of that party gets to be in charge of things.
Yeah.
But Hindenburg, the president, says, nah, don't like that guy. So he appoints this other guy who's leader of the Catholic Party, von Papen, kind of like the Pope, papal, whatever. No one likes von Papen. So a new election is called because everyone's like, nah, screw this guy. We want a different guy. We still want Hitler. The Nazis still win, but lose support slightly because they're doing all these violent things. Hindenburg appoints this guy, General von Schleider, but no one likes him either. So von Papen, the original guy, has a secret meeting with Hitler and says, hey, you'll be chancellor and I'll work for you. And we can get this through Hindenburg. Don't worry about him. Hindenburg still is like, nah, don't do that. I see what you're doing. Whatever. Von Schleider later gets booted. So then Hindenburg's like, I can't do anything else. So he goes back to von Papen and it's like, hey, like, okay, like we'll do what you want. But his advisors are like, nah, you can't do that. You're going to fuck things up. Like, this is bad for the country. And then von Papen says, nah, I got this. Put Hitler in charge. Somebody, air quotes, somebody sets Parliament on fire. That's like like where we have the House of Representatives, they have the Parliament.
Yeah.
Somebody sets it on fire, and Hitler and the Nazis blame the communists. He convinces Hindenburg to put all the communists in jail and all of his opponents. So now all you have is the Nazi party. Then, and they put him in, so jail is the first concentration camps.
Okay.
Before they're blaming the Jews. Any of their political enemies they put over there. Then Hindenburg,
jail your
he's
political
old.
enemies. That's bad.
Yeah. Hindenburg, he dies. Suddenly, the Nazis have full control, and then they put Hitler in charge. Okay.
Eesh.
So how long do you think all of that happened?
Couple of
30
months.
seconds.
Less than a year. Less than a
Yeesh.
year. Hitler goes from losing the presidential election with less than 40% of the vote to being the president of Germany.
Where were the aliens
Meanwhile-
to save us? That's what I ask.
Yeah.
If they're really
Meanwhile,
saving us.
Stigler,
Yeah.
our character of the story,
Yeah, Stigler. Back to Stigler now.
he's flying gliders. You know, he's
Okay.
just a young boy that loves to fly planes.
Yep.
And so he calls back to this when asked about the Charlie Brown incident. And I don't think he's outright saying that this is why it happened, but he mentions this, that one day when he was building a glider, he was putting glue onto the frame of it, and the glue work was kind of sloppy. It was a little messy looking. His dad came in, and he said, "Hey, son, your glue work, it's looking a little sloppy here." Stigler
No
says to
schnitzel
him-
for you, he said. No
Yeah.
schnitzel for you.
So Stigler says to him, it's fine. It'll all be covered in canvas. This stuff that you're looking at right now, no one's going to see it. And his father looks at him and he says, "No, do it again and do it right. Because even when no one else is looking or will see, you should do the right thing.
You should do the
Because
right
what
thing.
we do when no one's looking matters."
And that's what
This is
Aunt
going
May
to lead into.
That's what Aunt May told
Yeah.
Peter Parker in No Way
Yeah.
Home also, right,
Mhm.
Art?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We just talked about that
Well,
in the latest episode of Nerd School, available everywhere you listen to your podcasts. Okay, so
and there's
we're making note
there's
of
a
that.
there's a faith component to that, right?
Yeah.
Because he's religious, he believes that God is watching.
Yep.
But if you look even underneath of that, what matters is your soul, how you're going to feel about yourself
Yeah.
moving forward. He becomes an instructor pilot in the
Okay.
Luftwaffe. He's not directly involved in the war, but he's actually one of the greatest instructors they've had. Multiple of his students come out of there being some of the greatest World War II aces that the German Luftwaffe have ever produced. In 1940, his brother is killed in a crash of an airplane. They don't go into much detail of how his brother died, whether it was combat or not.
But Franz
His brother
lost a
dies-
brother, yes.
His brother dies somehow involved in the war. So Stigler joins up, wants to get into combat. He's a pissed off young man, like
Yep.
many of the fighters of World War II were. And he goes to North Africa. In North Africa, a lot of the soldiers and fighters down there, they find themselves separated from the main war. And there's a lot more chivalry going on.
Okay.
People fight by the rules of war a lot more than what you were seeing in Europe. While he's in North Africa, he's under a commander named Gustav Rodel. And one day, Gustav is talking to his men, and he calls out Stigler directly, knowing the reason that he joined up is because his brother was killed in action.
And so Gustav yells out, "Wiener Schnitzel!"
Yeah.
Right?
He says,
Or
he says, "What are you going to do, Stigler, today? If you go up and you shoot down an enemy plane, what are you going to do? What will happen if you see a parachute? What will you do?
Okay.
Will you shoot that man down
Yeah.
in his parachute?" And Stigler kind of hesitates, doesn't know what to say right away, and his commander says, "If I hear of you shooting a man in a parachute, I will shoot you myself."
Okay.
He says,
So he was ethical of the war.
He says,
the rules.
we fight by the rules of war,
Okay.
and
These are Nazis
That's-
now.
it's
Well, see,
yes, absolutely.
let me say this. Like I've always, I used to love watching war films, right? I used to love reading like the Time Life SS books and things like that. Like,
Mhm.
sure, it's like for instance, like in Korea. In Korea, men have to do service over there. They might not want to, join the military, but they have to do service over there before
Yeah.
they get to a certain age.
Mhm.
The Nazis are bad, right? But then you
Right.
also have, I'm sure that there are people who were sort of like drafted into service. They have to do this. Some of them still have a moral compass. You know, they still might believe in, you know, white Christendom and all of that stuff. But in some of them, maybe just like, well, you know, I was a young German boy and I had to join the SS. You know, so it's like,
well, that's kind of like Hunter said, like this guy Franz wasn't a fan, but just the fact that it's not so cut and dry that everybody's bad, everybody's good.
It's a job. It's a job that you were hired to do.
Yeah, and not saying
like
Nazis,
that's like
we're not saying Nazis are good people.
People out there say like there are no winners in war. Even if you win, you're still losing.
It's complicated.
You know, like I mean, a few years from after this, what we doing? Dropping the bomb on the whole country.
Yeah,
you know?
We'll get to that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's that's the thing. It's complex. It's not so cut and dry and easy to just say. You know, people are complex humans. You know, it's the time you were living in and the place you were born. That's the crazy thing about it all. All right, Hunter. Let's get to the story. What happened on December 20th?
So a few years later. December 20th, 1943, 21-year-old Charlie is flying his first mission ever.
Okay. In the
27,000 in
the
old pub with his boys.
Yep.
You know, his crew's in the back. And he's another one of those Captain Americas. He lied about his age.
Okay. A lot of these Captain Americas.
I don't think he didn't lie about his age to get in, but he said he lied to his crewmates that he was 25 and not 21, so that they would respect.
So they trust him more. Yeah.
I think I mean, like
that's a big difference between 21 and 25 at that age. Yeah. I don't blame him.
So he's flying his first mission at 27,000 feet, and you know these aren't the new aircraft today. This is no pressurized cockpit. This is there's air moving through the airframe. It's cold. It's negative 76 degrees.
Nobody's bringing him peanuts and biscotti.
I mean, like this is like you piss out the window, it's turning into ice.
Yes.
Like it is that cold.
You're not ordering a vodka cranberry.
No. So there are this town of Bremen that they're going to bomb. There are 250 flak cannons defending it.
Uh-huh.
So if you don't know anything about flak cannons, it's basically
I definitely don't.
Like essentially a grenade launcher that launches these bombs high into the air, up to the altitude these bombers are out, so 27,000 feet.
Yeah,
and they explode with a bunch of shrapnel.
Okay, so they're just trying to pick off planes
because it's hard to hit something from that far away.
Yeah.
But when you have 250 of these guns on the ground just firing
up grenades in the air,
and there's hundreds of planes flying through, you're gonna hit a couple of them.
Yeah, with a gunship.
Yeah. So they get hit pretty badly. Flak destroys the nose of the aircraft. So if you know anything about aerodynamics,
I don't.
The nose is what's basically splitting the air away in front of you.
Oh, gotcha. So if that's fucked up.
If that's now destroyed, all of a sudden now all that air is being caught inside the plane.
Ugh.
Like it's being this negative 76 degree air is now being pushed in on all these guys.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Two of their engines are damaged. One of which was already having to be throttled back because it was an older plane, and it was they were trying to prevent something called overspeeding, where the engine spins faster than it should.
Let me ask you a dumb question. Each one of these guys is in their own plane, right? Like one guy to a plane? Or is there how many are in
this
each
bomber?
plane?
This bomber has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys on.
Okay, so it's a bigger plane. Bigger. I'm picturing. With all of them, I'm picturing just like the Snoopy in the World War.
Stigler is in his own single man fighter.
Oh, Stigler's in his own, but this one, Charles, is in his bigger one.
Yep.
Ye Old Pub is big. 10 guys on.
So they damage 2 engines, and they have to fall back into a straggler position.
Oh, the old straggler position.
The rest of the bomb group is moving on. They're leaving them behind.
And they're just straggling. That's where the term straggling comes?
That's not where it comes from, but it's
it's just
a straggler happens with anything. Yeah. If you're running,
I'm always straggling.
So because they're slowing down, along with other bombers that have been hit.
Yeah.
German fighters come in and start trying to pick them off
Yeah.
because the flak cannons are still trying to hit the big group.
Yeah.
The flak cannons won't hit where the German fighters are trying to come in.
Yeah,
because
they're
don't
trying
wanna hit
to
their
come
own
in and
guys.
shoot them down, finish the job, right?
Yeah, exactly. They engage the plane for over 10 minutes, damaging a third engine.
Really? Just shooting the shit out of them more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oxygen, hydraulic systems, and electrical systems all damaged. Lost half of its rudder and its left elevator. So the rudder obviously.
I don't know, but I think you need the rudder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Charlie at once he said he kind of blacked out a little bit during the fight, but he says he remembers at one point the plane was pointed directly at the ground and he was pulling up.
Yeah, going straight down.
So he ends up he's able to get the plane back under control. I think the Germans just left him because they were like, this guy
That guy's not gonna make
torn
it,
all
yeah.
like
to
we've
hell.
got him,
Yeah.
no problem. He ends up pulling up directly over the tree line and gets to about 1,000 feet, which if you've ever flown in a plane, 1,000 feet is not a comfortable position.
Yeah.
Most of their weapons have jammed due to the electrical systems failing.
Yeah.
A lot of the crew is now wounded. The tail gunner Eckenrode is decapitated from flak.
Just a guy without a head back there.
Mm-hmm. Yelisenko, the right waist gunner, has a critical leg wound from flak.
Oof.
Basically, no longer has a leg.
Yeah, his legs gone.
Blackford. Let's see, what was his job? He is the ball turret gunner, so the guy down in the electric ball turret that moves around.
Yeah, he's fine.
His feet are frozen. So these guys' flight suits, they actually hooked into the electrics of the plane.
Yeah.
And they had wires running through their pants legs to keep them warm.
Oh God.
It's again,
So
it
now
is
it's-
negative 76 degrees in the air.
God, his feet are frozen.
And so his
I'm not
feet are
laughing at
frozen.
him at the situation. I'm just like, can't believe it.
I'm gonna pronounce this guy's name wrong, but Dick Pachu.
Dick Pachu.
The radio operator's been hit in the eye.
Oh
Can't
no.
see.
Hit in the
And then-
eye. And he's just
then
gotta
our-
like go along with everybody.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Then our he doesn't have a job anymore. The radio's been blown
Yeah,
up.
I guess. Yeah,
And
he's
then
gotta worry about his eye.
Charlie Brown has a right shoulder wound.
Okay,
He's
so
not
he's
sure
got
what
it.
it's from.
He's
Either-
got the
it's either
best.
from flak or something.
He's got the
So
best.
He's
At
bleeding.
least.
He's got it the best
He's
of everybody
got it
so
the
far. One
Well,
guy doesn't
there's
have
a
a
few-
head. One guy's got frozen.
There's a few people that aren't injured, but it
not
gets worse.
injured at all. Okay.
So
yeah.
the morphine syringes that they have, because of the temperature, are frozen,
Oh no.
so they can't use those.
Oh.
Their radio is destroyed. It was hit by flak at some point. So not only do they not have electric,
They can't
so
call
wouldn't
to
be able to
anybody.
use
They can't
anyone.
do- yeah.
Can't call anyone, tell anyone where they are. They had apparently they had discussions of bailing out of the plane.
Yeah.
Which would have been a problem at 1,000 feet because you don't have time to get a parachute open. But the biggest reason they end up not going with the bailing option is because they didn't want to leave Yelisenko, the guy with the leg wound. They didn't want to leave him behind in the plane because they knew that he wouldn't be able to survive a bailout.
Yeah.
And they would have to leave him in the plane. So they said, you know what, we
Can't do that
carry
to
on.
him. Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the ground, Franz Stigler is refueling his German fighter.
Yep.
He has already shot down multiple planes during the day, in the same fight. And he's refueling, he's rearming, and as he's there, he sees a B-17 bomber fly very low over the airfield. And it is none other than our friend Charlie Brown. He cuts off the fuel line, says, "I'm good. I'm going to go get this guy." Gets in his plane, takes off, easily catches up with the badly damaged ye old pub. And as he catches up, he can see all the damage. He describes pulling up to the side of the plane
It's fucked
and
up.
seeing he can see a massive hole in the side where he can see the guys inside.
Yeah.
He can see them like taking care of their wounded comrades. Most of their guns are jammed, so they're not shooting back.
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
He pulled up alongside Charlie in the cockpit. He said he could see Charlie in the cockpit. And essentially decides that he's going to take these guys down. He's going to finish the job that is halfway done by his comrades.
Yeah, it's going to kill these guys.
And he pulls back a little bit, goes is about to slip behind the plane, which is for a fighter pilot is a dangerous position because most of these planes have tail gunners.
Okay.
And he's expecting to be engaged by this tail gunner. And like I said, the tail gunner has been decapitated.
Yeah, he's got no head. No
longer alive. And he said as he slipped into that attack position, he could see the tail gunner slumped over the gun. And he recalled his mentor and what he said about a parachute.
Yep.
You know, and he said it was just like they were in a parachute. I saw them and I couldn't shoot them down. So he circles the plane a couple of times. They don't, obviously they're not shooting back. And he pulls up next to the cockpit, well, close to the front of the plane, and he can see Charlie, and he starts trying to signal them to land. There are German airfields nearby. And he wants them to land and surrender.
How do you signal somebody to land?
So that's the thing is Charlie says that the signals were unclear.
Okay,
they ignored them and flew on.
Yeah.
He also pointed. Apparently, he was trying to point towards Sweden, which was a neutral country.
Okay, yeah.
Wanted them to go there and try and land. Still, Charlie was like, "No, like I'm flying this way."
Yeah.
And so instead, Franz slipped into a left wingman position, which is directly. So your wingman sits to one side and a little bit behind you.
Okay.
And so he slips back there and flies close to the tail, which did two things. If another German aircraft had come in, he would have seen Franz there and not engaged.
Sure.
Because there was within the Air Force, there was a chivalry and, an understanding of what other pilots were doing. But then also any flak cannons that were on the ground, seeing the silhouette of a German airplane that close would not have fired because they wouldn't want to hurt their guys. So he flew near Brown in close formation, and escorted them to the coast until over open water. Charlie says at that point he told one of the gunners to point the guns at Stigler, but not fire, just to kind of like get him away. And Stigler said that he understood. He understood that. Okay, they don't want me here anymore.
Yeah.
So he flew around, and he said he waved at the men on the plane, and then gave Charlie a salute.
Yeah,
and peeled off back to Germany and landed back. Landed back home. Charlie, from this point forward, Stigler doesn't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. What happened to them and all he's going on about it.
These guys have been shot to shit. Their engine could die at any moment.
Sure.
They're now over open water. So if they go down, they have no radio, no way to contact anybody, tell them where they are. But Charlie ends up flying 250 miles across the North Sea to England and lands. Stigler described the plane as someone asked him if he had ever seen a plane so badly damaged, and he said not flying. No plane that damaged should be still in the air. Brown gets on the ground and he told his officers what had happened and how this German pilot let him go. And of course, that had to be classified, because how do you continue to wage a war
Yeah.
with another country?
They have
and
to be
ask
all
men
evil
to kill?
and ruthless,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And Stigler comes back to lands at his base in Germany, never tells anybody, because that would have been treason of the highest order.
Sure,
assisting the enemy. There was, I forget the way the historian I was listening to described it. They talked about there was a woman in a factory that told a joke about Hitler to a person next to them. The joke was they were Hitler and Mussolini were at the top of a radio tower, and Hitler says to Mussolini, I want to do something great for the German people. And Mussolini turns and says, well, jump off. And so she told that joke to a person next to her on this factory line. I guess either that person or someone else heard and went and told someone, and she was guillotined the next day.
Oh my gosh.
So as you just assisted the enemy.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to tell anybody.
Right.
But that calls back to, what his father told him.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if anyone's looking. In fact, it matters more when no one's looking.
Well, now how do we know about this now?
So we know about it now. So Charlie Brown goes back to live his life. The Americans win the war.
Yep.
Spoiler.
And he's actually
spoiler alert.
So he's actually at a reunion of pilots, and they're all sitting around the bar telling stories, shooting the shit.
This is in America, in the U.S.
Yes.
Okay.
And Charlie says to some of the pilots, he's like, well, actually, I had a German pilot salute me once. And they all laughed. And they said, okay, Charlie. And then he was like, no. He told them the story. And one of his friends said, well, Charlie, you owe it to yourself to find this guy.
How would he ever?
This guy saved your life.
Yeah.
And he was like, you owe it not only to yourself, but you owe it to him to find him if he's still out there. So Charlie comes back home, and he starts taking out ads in newspapers, magazines
in Germany,
in America, all over the place. Like any World War II or veteran magazine he can find. He's taking out ads saying, hey, if you were a German pilot and you escorted a B-17 bomber to out of Nazi Germany, contact me. I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Me. And so he ended up putting what was the name of the
Craigslist?
The magazine. No, it was actually a German fighter pilot. It was a German fighter pilot magazine. But so he put an ad in there, and Franz saw it and called him, and Charlie said that when he called, he had information that he hadn't put in the article. He described things about the livery of the plane, he knew exactly the plane and who it was, and so they met each other in I believe they met in Seattle. I think Charlie was down in California.
Oh man!
And Stigler had actually moved to Canada to get out of Nazi.
Really?
So he was in Toronto. So they met in Seattle.
Oh my gosh!
And Charlie obviously thanked him, and they had spoken at multiple events together since their meeting.
Wow.
But during their first meeting, Stigler actually he said to Charlie, "I love you, Charlie." And,
really?
I think that it wasn't Charlie saying "I love you, Stigler," because you saved me. You are the reason I'm here today.
Yeah.
And I think again we're getting back to that sacrifice.
Yeah.
Knowing that possibly his own soul was saved because he was able to
save him,
to sacrifice his, or risk his own life for these guys that he didn't know and probably would never know and would never get to brag about to anybody.
Couldn't tell anybody. You do the most heroic act you can imagine, and you don't tell you can't tell anybody.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Nuts. Yeah,
exactly.
You're not doing.
You don't get to see the repercussions of it.
Yeah.
But in this case, they did.
Wow, that's a good story.
Yeah. They were best friends until they both died in 2008. I think they were both around 90 years old.
They died the same year,
but they remained good friends.
That is a great friendship story.
Yeah, it gives me the feels. Like I might have teared up a couple times.
That's a feel good.
And this is one of those things where, like, why isn't there a movie about this? Like, is there not?
There's got to be, right?
Yeah, there's books. There's a couple books. One of the most popular ones is called A Higher Call, and that's the.
Maybe we need to make it. Maybe the three of us can make that movie.
We can make that movie happen.
Let's do it. Yeah. Starring Ben Kingsley. I'm trying to think. Starring Deborah Jo Rupp could be in it. And there's no women in it. All right, no, that's a great story. Thank you, Hunter. Now let me just quickly finish up December so we can get the heck out of here and let the Chuck Berry get out of here. And I'm going to jump to December 25th, which is Christmas. Allied bombardment of Berlin was temporarily halted after a week of raids by the Royal Air Force and the U.S. Army Air Forces that had ended with a heavy attack on the morning of Christmas Eve that killed more than 2,000 people. At the same time, no German bombers flew over the U.K. because of Christmas. That's the crazy thing to me, too. It's like, we want to kill you!
But it's Christmas.
But it's Christmas, so we'll stop. We'll stop for today. December 26th was a Sunday. For the first time, the NFL championship game was played after Christmas. A crowd of 34,320 turned out at Wrigley Field to watch the hometown Chicago Bears beat the Washington Redskins 41-21. And that's a little known fact. When I used to live right by Wrigley Field on the same street, just 2 blocks down. And back then in the 90s or 2000s, Wrigley Field still held the record. I'm not sure if it still does, but for most NFL games played. Like, the NFL used to play there, even though it's a baseball stadium now. December 28th was a Tuesday. U.S. Army Lieutenant Douglas McDowell and aviation cadet Clarence A. Thompson vanished during a training mission while flying a UC-78 Bobcat airplane after taking off from an Army air base near Douglas, Arizona. For more than 30 years, their fate remained unknown. But in late April 1974, 2 hikers would find the wreckage and the men's remains in the Mount Graham mountain range. So how about that? For years, they thought they were lost. December 31st, 1943, Artstar's favorite singer of all time and was born. He was also a film actor. His name was Henry John Duchendorf Jr. He was born in Roswell, New Mexico. And you may know him as John Denver. He was killed in a plane crash.
Thank God I'm a country boy.
Yeah, that's Art's favorite all-time performer of anything.
Who doesn't like Gilligan?
He was born to Emma Louise, was his mom, and Captain Henry John Dutch Duchendorf Sr., a U.S. Army Air Forces pilot stationed at Roswell Army Airfield. So he was an Army brat. His dad was a decorated pilot who set a number of airspeed records in a Convair B-58 Hustler. Are you familiar with that, Hunter Brizzy?
I'm not.
No?
I'm not, but I'm going to look it up.
You got to look it up,
you
baby.
think John Denver knew about UAPs? I mean,
he might have. He wrote. Didn't he write
one of the first jet aircraft?
Well, and he wrote "Leaving on a Jet Plane." He described his father as a stern man who could not show his love for his children. With a military father, Denver's family moved off and he found difficulty gaining friends and assimilating with children of his own age. The introverted Denver often felt misplaced and did not know where he truly belonged. And then his father was transferred to Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. The family later moved to Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth, Texas, where Denver graduated from Arlington Heights High School, home of the Yellow Jackets. notable alumni at John Denver School for trivia include Lee Harvey Oswald,
Oh,
Bill Paxton, and Dusty Rhodes, the
Woo!
American Dream.
I like that, baby. That's the road.
They all went to the same high school. You now know that.
That's the road.
And Denver was so distressed with his life in Fort Worth. His third year of high school, he took his father's car and drove it to California to visit family and friends to begin his music career. His father flew to California in a friend's jet to retrieve him, and Denver reluctantly returned to complete his schooling. There you go. And that same day, Sir Ben Kingsley was born. I know I mentioned Ben Kingsley a bunch of times. He was also born that same day. He was born...
Trevor Slattery.
Isn't he? He was not born Ben Kingsley. He was born Krishna Pandit Banji in Sneinton, North Riding of Yorkshire. His mother, Anna Lina Mary, was an English actress and model, and his father, Ramatullah Harji Bahanji, was born in Zanzibar, now part of Tanzania. And he was educated at the Manchester Grammar School. What did I say? Tanzania. Yeah, Tasmania, not Tasmania. He was educated at the Manchester Grammar School, where one of his classmates was actor Robert Powell. And that's all I got for 1943. Birthdays. Got to end on the birthdays. Well, thank you, Hunter Brizzle and Art Stizzy.
I don't know if that's going to work.
Artstar and Hunter Brame. He's not liking that.
Well, because
Artstar and Hunter Brame.
It doesn't flow. It seems like it's an overreach.
Artstasy, like a star.
Artstasy.
Yeah, you can't say stizzy for star.
So it has to be Artstasy. You know,
Artstasy or Starsy.
Like,
Stars.
Little known fact. Yeah, so it's a little known fact. 'Cause I'm saying it makes it a fact. But like,
yeah, it makes it a fact.
My whole Artemis thing.
Yeah.
Where I drop the A and just go Artemis. Because
A-R-T.
Yeah, no, it's just Artemis.
Oh, it's R-T. Artemis.
Artemis.
Yeah.
But I'm still saying, like, my name is Arthur. So it's R. Right? That's an I. But
yeah,
it's R. So
Arthur.
Like Arthur.
Right.
So Artstasy.
So
it wouldn't like, so you could do Artstasy.
Artstasy.
But you can't do the Artstasy. Like, Artstasy.
Yeah.
It's like flowing.
You should legally change your name to just one name, Artstar.
Artstar. I had a friend who always tells me, like, whenever we do these things, he's like, your name's not Artstar. Like, why you, like, she had me do something, and the lady asked me, it was a Zoom call, she asked me what my name was, like, Artstar. I like, my nom de guerre is Artstar.
Nom de plume.
But it's like,
all right, well.
It's like, I've been Artstar for the longest time, so it's just one of those things where, you know.
That's who you are. That's your identity. Well, thank you guys both for doing that research. That was very extensive stuff, and I know it's a lot of work.
Hunter was right there. Like, I feel like just listening to Hunter talk, I literally felt like I was in I went to like a TED Talk. Right?
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to get the history of Adolf Hitler's elections.
I feel like he chose the perfect one. Because, like, I just imagine Hunter as a little kid with model planes.
Well, just like the moment I saw Charlie Brown and Franz Stigler, I was like, I'm taking that one. Yeah. That's me.
Well, what a really good feel-good story. But I do think this can be 2 episodes. I might split this into 2 episodes. And the first one at Artstar story, and then start the next one with Hunters, because it was long.
Oh, I didn't go that long, did I?
Well, we've been on this since 8 o'clock. It's 2.5 hours.
Like,
but it wasn't too long. It wasn't too long.
Listen, I looked at the.
No, I talked a lot
time,
too at the beginning,
and it was like it was still like 1 hour and 10 minutes, and I hadn't started.
yeah. I mean, we did a 2-hour thing, but that's good. So that gives me more time to get ready for the next one. So yeah, this will be good. I'll figure out how to split it. Well, thank you guys. You want to give us your Instagram handles where everyone can follow you?
Yeah,
or your YouTube channel.
Pilot Babu. I'm a new homeowner.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, come over to his house.
That's what's on there right now. Don't come over to my house.
Everyone's invited. Give us the address.
There's nothing there. It's just an empty hole.
Yeah, by the time I produce this, give us the address, and I'll bring stuff over. And then Art, yeah, what's your Art?
I'm at Artstar V9 everywhere.
Everywhere you get your social media.
Artstar V9.
All right. And check out the Nerd School podcast, which Art is the greatest part of. Don't tell people guys. All right, and we're out. Thanks, guys.
Now I'm obsessed with time.
You are obsessed with time. I'm obsessed.
It's on outside.
Oh, my child, it's about to get wild. Have you been down on the streets today? Say, now, baby, it's about to get crazy. Everybody's got something to say. We got 10,000 people screaming, oh my God, it's over, but they're never gonna take us away. So you better get believing there's a brand new feeling. If you're asking, I say stay awake, stay awake.
Matt Truman Ego Trip is the greatest band of all time. Buy their music. Also, American Timelines is a product of History for Jerks and a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more about History for Jerks at historyforjerks.com. Check out the Gruff and Loud Show on YouTube and the Nerd School podcast featuring the sexy Artstar. There's also a dumb t-shirt shop on Threadless, created by History for Jerks. You can buy a Gordon Jump shirt or an Edie McClurg shirt. It's really dumb and stupid.